There are over 400,000 people in the United States living with Down syndrome. According to the National Down Syndrome Society, Down syndrome is the most commonly occurring chromosomal condition. One of the most common misconceptions about people with Down syndrome is that they will not be able to live productive lives that contribute to society. But within the recent years, with the recent advances in therapy techniques and the knowledge of the syndrome, the life expectancy of someone with Down syndrome has risen from 10 years old in 1910 to 60 years old today. Today I want to talk about the 3 types of Down syndrome, the most common physical features and complications that come along with Down syndrome, as well as notable people who have Down syndrome who have done amazing things despite having Down syndrome. The 3 types of Down syndrome. The first is trisomy 21, which accounts for 95% of cases of Down syndrome. The National Genetic Education and Development Center describes trisomy 21 as the result of an error in meiosis and has a recurrence risk of about 1 in 100. Basically, it is an extra copy of the 21st chromosome. The second type of Down syndrome is translocation, and it accounts for about 4% of Down syndrome cases. It's similar to trisomy 21 in the fact that they have an extra 21st chromosome, but that extra chromosome is not attached to the 21st chromosome, it's attached to another chromosome, say the 3rd or the 14th or the 19th chromosome. The third type of Down syndrome is mosaic Down syndrome, which accounts for about 1% of Down syndrome cases. Mosaic Down syndrome is a mixture of 2 types of cells. Some cells having the typical 46 chromosomes and some having 47 chromosomes. Again, they have an extra 21st chromosome, but all of the cells don't have the extra 21st chromosome. Even though there are 3 types of Down syndrome, all types of Down syndrome exhibit the same features. So if there are a room of 100 people with Down syndrome, you wouldn't necessarily know which one has trisomy 21 or translocation or mosaic Down syndrome. Some of the typical features of people with Down syndrome are flattened facial features, small in stature, small hands and feet, upward slant of the eyes, poor muscle tone, which leads to excessive flexibility, difficulty with speech, and some mental delay. Typical complications are heart defects, increased risk of infectious disease because of weakened immune systems, increased risk for dementia, sleep apnea, and they're more prone to obesity. Although with these many signs and complications, with love and encouragement and lots of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, people with Down syndrome can live independent lives, which leads to my next point. People with Down syndrome making the news for their accomplishments. Like I mentioned earlier, a common misconception of people with Down syndrome is that they will not live productive lives that contribute to society. But the Down syndrome community continues to prove us wrong. For example, Tim Harris, a man from Albuquerque, New Mexico with Down syndrome, opened his own restaurant back in 2010. In a promo video that he did for the restaurant, he said, "We serve breakfast, lunch, and hugs, and the hugs are the best part." Another example is Jamie Brewer. Jamie Brewer was the first model to appear in the New York Fashion Week. And Jillian Doherty. She graduated college, she holds a full-time job, and she just got married. So today we have discussed the 3 types of Down syndrome. We've discussed the typical features of someone with Down syndrome and the complications that can arise. And we have also discussed people who were given a chance to chase their dreams and did. So I want to end with this quote from Jillian Doherty's dad on her wedding day. paints a perfect picture of how people with Down syndrome are able to live productive lives that contribute to society. He says, I never worried about her achieving academic success because my wife and I were going to make that happen. But I feared once that she would struggle to find friends. A decade ago, when a young man walked to our door wearing a suit and bearing a corsage and said, I'm here to take your daughter to homecoming, sir. Every fear I ever had about your life being incomplete vanished. Now Jillian has done everything that others told her she would never do, including get married.